Most of Rod Serling's work is a celebration of the everyman, where a person faces negative circumstances and overcomes, or he basically chooses the right person to be the hero. But what happens in the episode of Time Enough at Last, which of course is a classic, is one of the biggest cop outs and the biggest insults to the Rod Serling oeuvre. He basically played himself by giving the people a conclusion. This episode was disgusting in its ending and unfair. And yes, it's dramatically important, but when you're placing someone a hero that's overcoming something, and you give him a shit ending like that, even real life or fantasy, it was terrible. A very well written episode, but I don't know what if Rod Serling was having a bad day, because Serling had problems sometimes with depression or what they call self hatred. But like I said, I can never recommend this show because basically the wrong decision was made. Now, Time Enough at Last is the 8th episode of the American anthology series The Twilight Zone, which first aired on November 1959. It was adapted by Serling from a short story by Lynn Venable, which appeared in the January 1953 edition of If, Worlds of Science Fiction. Now, Time Enough at Last became one of the most famous episodes of the original Twilight Zone because of its terrible ending. It's not like it's poorly presented, it's just basically a mindfuck. It is the story of a man, according to Serling, who seeks salvation in the rubble of a ruined world. The man in question is Henry Bemis, played by the great Burgess Meredith, who loves books but is surrounded by those who would prevent him from reading them. The episode follows Bemis through a post-apocalyptic world, touching on such social issues as anti-intellectualism, the dangers of reliance upon technology, and the distinction between solitude and loneliness. Now, the way it sets up, his co-workers hate him because he reads. His wife hates him because he reads. She goes out of her way to ruin every page of a poetry book by taking a pen or some kind of Sharpie type device and ruining every piece of poetry. To me, that's anti-word and basically anti-intellectual. Now, again, bank teller and avid bookworm Henry Bemis reads David Copperfield while serving a customer. He is so engrossed in the novel that he attempts to regale the increasingly annoyed woman with information about the characters, and it accidentally shortchanges her. Bemis' angry boss and later his nagging wife both complain to him that he wastes far too much time reading doggerel. Now, the plot here, there's a big problem here. How in the hell did he ever get a job at a place like that was anti-intellectual, and how in the hell did he ever marry a woman who was anti-intellectual? Like, it makes no sense. But like for the sense of plot, we'll put it together. As a cruel joke, again, his wife asks him to read poetry to her from one of his books. He eagerly obliges, only find that she's crossed out the text on every page. Seconds later, she destroys the book by ripping the pages from it. If that was my woman, I think there'd be a shit kicking coming. I wouldn't touch her. I'd basically throw her outside and said, fuck off you. We're divorced. Leave me the books and go fuck yourself. Now, the next day, as usual, Henry takes his lunch break in the bank's vault while his reading cannot be disturbed. Moments after, he sees a newspaper headline which reads H-bomb, capable of total destruction. An enormous explosion outside shakes the vault, knocking Bemis unconscious. After regaining consciousness and recovering his thick glasses, he emerges from the vault to find the bank demolished and everyone in it dead. Of course, down in the vault that protected him must have been a smart bomb. Leaving the bank, he sees that the entire city has been destroyed and realizes that while the nuclear war has devastated Earth, his being in the vault has saved him. Now, according to the narration, minutes later, he crawled by on hands and knees for Bemis, who looks for a spark in the ashes of a dead world. A telephone connected to nothingness, a neighborhood bar, a movie, a baseball diamond, a hardware store. The mailbox of what was once his house is now a rubble. Delighted his feet has battered monuments to what was but is no more. Henry Bemis on an 8-hour tour of a graveyard. Now, finding himself alone in a broken world with canned food, the last of a lifetime, and no means of leaving to look for other survivors, he succumbs to despair. As he prepares to kill himself using a revolver he's found, Bemis sees the ruins of a public library in the distance, and investigating, he finds that the books are still intact. All the books he could ever hope for his reading, and all the time he could ever hope for to read them without interruption. Now, with despair gone, Bemis contentedly sorts the books he looks forward to reading for years to come, with no obligations to get in the way. Just as he bends down to pick up a book, he stumbles and his glasses fall off and shatter. In shock, he picks up the broken remains of the glasses and breaks down in tears, surrounded by books he now can never read. And of course, the line, "It's unfair." Now, why in the hell would Serling write something that would devastate his character? Bemis cannot control who he is. He loves the word more than he loves people. So that's how you repay him. Like, I don't even know exactly what Serling was. He trying to shock factor to get enough of a Cayuga money or CBS money? Again, not say it's cheap hits, but my God, it's okay to say it's a classic. It is a classic episode, but it's frustrating. I've been a journalist for 41 years. I don't keep anything from my audience. I never make fun of my audience. And you're basically doing something that's taking a very well-known actor and putting him in a situation where he should survive it, and you're punishing him. I mean, I can't understand. Now, the Time Enough to Last, again, one of the first episodes written for the Twilight Zone. It introduced Burgess Meredith to the series, which is the MVP, I think, of that show. He went into star in 3 more episodes, being introduced as no stranger to Twilight Zone in the promotional spots for The Obsolete Man, which is a very, very better movie for the Serling oeuvre. He also narrated the 83 film Twilight Zone in the movie, which made reference to Time Enough at Last during his opening sequence, with the characters discussing the episode in detail. Now, footage of the exterior steps of the library were filmed several months after production had been completed. These steps can only be seen in the exterior of the Eloi Public Building in the Time Machine. John Graham was nominated for the Directors Guild Award for his work in the episode. The book that Bemis was reading in the vault and that flips open when a bomb explodes is a history of life and voyages of Christopher Columbus by Washington Irving. Now, although the overriding message may seem to be careful what you wish for, you just might get it, there are other themes throughout the episode. Again, solitude versus loneliness, as embodied by Bemis' moment of near suicide. Additionally, the portrayal of societal attitudes towards books speaks to contemporary decline in traditional literature and how, given enough time, reading may become a relic of the past. And at the same time, the ending punishes Bemis for his antisocial behavior and his greatest desires toward it. He should not be the victim here. Everybody else, it's Bemis, should be by himself. He shouldn't be seen walking off reading a book and basically saying he's finally got what he wanted, solitude. He didn't choose that. Now, Serling's concluding statement in the episode alludes to Robert Burns Scott's language poem, To a Mouse. The poem concludes, the best laid schemes of mice and men often go awry. Meredith himself had portrayed George Milton in a 39 film adaptation of the Steinbeck novel named for the same line. Again, in the era of the internet and ebooks, the irony depicted in Time Enough at Last as an information age counterpart, according to Weston O'Cheese of Storytellers Unplugged. As O'Cheese pointed out, when Bemis becomes the last person on Earth, he finally has time to read with all these books at his fingertips, and the only impediment is technology. When his medium for accessing them, his glasses break. In a hypothetical world where all the books are published electronically, OSHA observes readers would only be only a lightning strike, a faulty switch, a sleepy workman on a natural disaster away from becoming Henry Bemis at the end of the world. Now, it is a critical favorite, again, but for me, I don't want to say that Serling should be saluted for doing something so cruel. Like, the idea of his humanity is well known. Rod Serling was a very strong person. But to allow something like that to be shown, imagine if he would have took another direction. Okay? You know, it just say he walks off reading a book, and it's the same book that his wife had ripped up. That would be a much better ending. I am not the person to say I'm a better writer than Rod Serling. However, I'm a critic, and I have to say where it comes from. I was only 7 years old when I saw this episode the first time, and I turned to my dad in no uncertain terms. I basically said, "Dad, what the fuck is this?" It's like I never saw Serling be cruel. See, I saw most of Night Gallery before I saw all the episodes of first season, and the Roddy McDowell episode is kind of a similar where he's been put on view, and I don't know what Serling was people are like all over. I don't know what Serling was trying to do. I mean, I don't know if it just there was a little bit of coolness getting in. Like there was much more compassionate episodes later on, and if I went blind for 6 months, and I kept on thinking to myself, that's why I'm freaking out, because I want to be able to read everything I want to read from now on. And I can generally say I've read pretty well all the major books on Rod Serling's career, including what Stephen King said and different people. But like I said, this episode really bothers me. Not in from a literary standpoint, it really bothers me. So if you think it's a critical success, let me know. But I have a basic theory about this. This episode is not the worst he ever did, but the most unnecessary. And that's a big difference. Sure, it was a classic, great acting and stuff, but he should have picked a different ending. And if I would rewrite it, I would rewrite that last song where he's walking down from the steps. Time enough at last, and it cuts. He's having a cracker or whatever, and maybe something he latches onto, like a sunset or something like that. And like you can see he's almost, the camera's reading the book that he's reading. I think it'd be much better. So I mean, that's how it works. Not everybody's going to agree with me, but not everybody's going to agree with this. If you're looking this from an objective standpoint, it's fucked up. Anyway, so ladies and gentlemen, if you like reviews of the Rod Serling Twilight Zone, let us know in a like, comment, subscribe, or share. And if you think I'm full of shit, give me the argument why. But maybe people need to come out and say this episode, it's cruel. And why was it cruel? Why did it have to be cruel? It wasn't a Twilight Zone like we knew the Twilight Zone by season 2 or season 3. He was still putting it out there. Would Alfred Hitchcock do something similar to this? Because usually in an Alfred Hitchcock movie, the evil person gets it. That's why I like Hitchcock better than Serling. Because in most of his movies, the evil people get it. In this one, the good person gets it. And why? Did he ever do anything to deserve that? I mean, yes, the cruelty of humanity, but do we have to be reminded about that by someone so much in power with a show like that? Because Rod Serling was the #1 writer on television for 5 years previous to the Twilight Zone, and that's what he gives to people? Was he forgiven for that because he was #1 or the first of his kind, the big TV writer before Chevesky and everybody else? Anyway, it is what it is. Have a good one. Bye.